This is a homemade Sicilian-style eggplant pesto, marinated with garlic and olive oil, which I make in a generous batch and used on bread at lunchtime, and later I mix it through pasta for dinner. In this video I will show you how I prepare it and store it safely so it can be used across different meals. These are a couple of eggplants. I purchased them from the supermarket about a week ago, and they are beginning to show signs of deterioration. Now, we are going to visit our daughter Gabriella, who lives in Manchester, and we will be away for a few days. So evidently, if I just leave them in the fridge, they will go bad. So I have got a little plan where I'm going to place them inside a little zipper bag, and I've got my little freezer over here, and I'll place them in the freezer inside the zipper bag, otherwise they might develop some frost bites. And when I return from Manchester, I'll cook with them. They're not going to be as versatile as they would be if they were fresh, but I'm going to show you something delicious. So I'll see you then. I'll be back. Ciao, ciao. And that was the middle of October last year. In the meantime, we've been to Sicily and back. We've been to Manchester once again. We had Christmas and now we are early February. So 3.5 months on. Dure come le rocce, which means rock hard. Also, I've got here some cherry tomatoes in the freezer. Same reason. So I will leave them here to defrost and I'll see you lunchtime. 2 hours have passed and my eggplants are partly defrosted, but for what I want to do is perfectly okay. And also I'm getting a little bit peckish as it is lunchtime, so I'm going to show you now. Fork, and I'm going to just stab them randomly. Somebody mentioned to me when I did some eggplants on my air fryer that they had a little accident as they didn't stab them and they exploded inside the air fryer and made a mess. So they advised me to stab them, and it makes sense actually. So here I've got my little tray. I'll place them in and I'll put them on for 25 minutes at a temperature of 180 degrees, and halfway through I'll turn them over. Then I'll come back and I'll show you what to do with the tomatoes. And of course, if you do not have an air fryer, you can always put them in the oven, same temperature, 180 degrees, same time, 25 minutes. I'm now placing a little olive oil at the bottom of a pan, and I'm going to deal with some garlic first. And I'm going to remove a couple of medium-sized cloves. I'm using a bread knife, by the way, in case you're wondering, because I find that for jobs like these are really good, and I'll need it later when I deal with the eggplants, and I'm going to be slicing the tomatoes in a moment. It's so versatile, and I'm slicing my couple of cloves of garlic in about 1mm little pieces, just like this, and I'm going to add them to the oil next. And I'm now slicing my tomatoes using my magic bread knife. They are still partly defrosted, but you can see that actually it's going through, no problem at all. I've also given them a quick wash to ensure that they're nice and clean. And you will have noticed that I'm adding them to my oil and my garlic when everything is still cold, so you don't need to worry about moving on to the hob yet. In terms of quantities, by the way, a pack of tomatoes weigh 325 grams, so 650 grams combined, and 2 eggplants, of course, and also a couple of cloves of garlic. So you can actually reduce it proportionally by using 1 eggplant, 1 bag of tomatoes, and 1 clove of garlic if you wish. And of course you can do this with fresh eggplants and fresh tomatoes. You do not have them frozen. As I mentioned before, this gives me the opportunity to do something different, which is quite nice actually. I always start with the temperature on maximum, even if I use fresh tomatoes, but even more today as they are partly frozen. But they're going very well now, so I'll turn them down on medium, and I will leave them for about 10 minutes as they are partly frozen. If you're using fresh tomatoes, by the way, 7 minutes is perfect. They have released obviously a lot more water because they are partly frozen, and I'm going to drain the water, excess water, using a sieve, and I'll leave them in there for a little while to cool down, and in the meantime I'll produce a little vinaigrette. And this is a little Mediterranean magic, by the way. I'll start yet again with a new clove of garlic. I've used obviously garlic for the tomatoes, but that is cooked, whereas this is going to be uncooked, and it will add a different aromatic layer to my finished vinaigrette. So in it goes. And if you do not have a garlic crusher, by the way, you can always chop it very, very finely with a knife. A little handful of basil, which I've just chopped from my plant, and I'll cut it using my bread knife. These are olives, which we keep in olive oil, and I'm gonna use a good couple of tablespoons. But before I add them to my basil and garlic, I'm slicing them in little pieces, about 2 to 3 millimeters pieces, and in they can go with the rest. Don't forget to pick up any oil, of course. Time to get my sleeves up, as this can be a little bit messy. So my tomatoes have drained, and I'll move them into a new bowl. And using a fork, nothing fancy, I'll start crushing them, and I'll go also along with my knife, and I'll cut them so that I'll make a little pulp. And of course you can always use a food processor. I won't, because I like the rusticness of it, and I think that a food processor will make everything very watery and very liquidy, whereas like this they retain the structure. Looks good. Now I can move my olives, basil and garlic with it, and I'll mix everything together. But of course I now need to wait for the eggplants to finish cooking, so I'll see in a little while. I had to add a further 5 minutes to my cooking cycle, as normally when I cook them they are fresh, not partly frozen, and I cook them for 25 minutes. But as they were partly frozen, I had to extend it by 5 minutes. The way I judge it, by the way, is by the feel of the skin. It's a bit almost like cardboardy, if you see what I mean. You can hear the sound. So obviously you will have to judge it if you're using partly frozen eggplants, but also the size, of course. But 25 minutes generally is a good amount. So get hold of the little knobbly bit at the end, as it will allow you to cut it without burning yourself, and slice it in half. Yet again, you can see the benefit of a bread knife here, and I'll do both. They're steaming hot, of course, and there we go. Here's number 2 done. And using a spoon, I'm now very simply going inside and scraping off all of my eggplant. You can see that all I've got left is the peel, so I'll leave it here, and I'll do with this one, and I'll show you. Make sure that you don't burn yourself though. So hold it from the end where it's most convenient to you, and go across and very gently just spoon it off, and it comes off very easily, which is a great indication to tell you that the eggplants are cooked, of course. And just like I did with the tomatoes, I'm now going along with my knife and chop them in little pieces, and then I'm going along with a fork and making a little pulp of eggplant. And in case you're wondering, this is a DIY spatula, which I've never used obviously for DIY, but it's incredibly handy for jobs like this, and also considerably cheaper than buying the proper kitchen tool. So whilst it's hot, and that is why I'm doing it now, by the way, because I want the heat from my eggplants to go with the tomatoes. And I always think that if you're mixing these ingredients whilst they're hot, actually they release even more flavour. And I'll mix it together first, and that is looking really good. So next, salt and pepper. I've not added any salt and pepper yet, so a little salt. I can always add some more later, but I'm going to be fairly generous with pepper. Balsamic vinegar, this is really good, by the way, here, so a little drop in there, about 1 teaspoon. And of course olive oil. I've added olive oil obviously when I was cooking the tomatoes, but this is clearly as it comes, so it will make the whole thing really, really flavorful. And I'll mix it together, and I'll leave it to rest for a couple of minutes, and I'll taste it with some bread, so I can have my lunch in a moment. But later I will also be making some pasta this evening, and I'll show you what I do. But talking about the meal for this evening, do not throw the stock left over from the tomato away, of course, because this will come handy when I cook the pasta later, but I'll show you that. Okay, time to try and slice some bread. But also I have filled an old marmalade jar with some of my mix, and this will go in the fridge, as it's got raw garlic, and clearly be careful with botulism, and it will last about 3 to 4 days in the fridge, and you can use it as a paste or as a sauce for your pasta, of course. But let's taste this, and then we can have a look and see what it is like. It's wonderful. The eggplant is still a little bit warm and it tastes beautiful, but as it cools down it will be even better. But it's delicious, very Mediterranean and very much what I was looking for. So I'll leave you for now. It's lunchtime and I'll see you later this evening when I cook dinner. Ciao ciao for the pasta. This is beginning to feel a little bit like one of those Netflix series where there are many episodes in the series, but I promise this is the last one. So pasta, my water is boiling, salted water. We're going for spirals, by the way. It's one of our favorites, actually Julie's favorite. And I'll leave this to cook now for just before al dente, so that I can finish cooking it here. I did say to you to keep the water from the tomatoes, and I got my pan over here. I'll turn it on and I'll start warming it up. Here it goes. So the pasta is almost cooked, but I'll finish cooking it in my sauce, which is now boiling, and in it goes. And you will see that the pasta will start absorbing the remaining of my tomato water, and it will finish cooking in here, about a minute or two. Inevitably, you will definitely have a little bit of the water from your tomatoes, even if you were to use fresh tomatoes. Just keep it, and even a little will help. I'm ready. So you must have had pesto before, where you buy a jar of pesto and then you just mix it with pasta. Ensure that your pesto or your mix is out of the fridge at least 10 to 15 minutes, so it gets to room temperature. But one thing that you must avoid and do is to cook it, because quite clearly the properties are in the fact that this has got the raw garlic, a little bit of the raw garlic. But I'm going to add a little bit more, because I think it's going to be the only filling. So I'm going to my little jar and I'll start making use of it. I think it's plenty there. And I'll mix it, and of course, being that the pasta is really hot, it will make sure that everything gets to a decent temperature. Ooh, nearly. And I'm now serving a portion, and you can see what I've done here. Looks absolutely divine.
Smells lovely.
Smells good. And because I haven't cooked the sauce, the smell of garlic in contact with the hot pasta is very prominent. I'm going to add though a little cheese to this, as it will go really nicely. And one final drizzle of olive oil on top. The bread earlier was delicious, and this is delicious for different reasons, because the pasta is hot and it's obviously combining beautifully with the sauce, and it's just to die for. So it goes to show you can make something out of nothing to an extent, because those eggplants were reaching the end of their life, and they could easily go in the bin. But they didn't. Nothing goes in the bin in our house. Enjoy if you make it. Thank you for watching, and buon appetito.